Why is this phone not a flagship? Alright guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay Will. So it's time to talk about my 72 hours with the Asus Zenfone 5. So I know in recent days that the OnePlus 6 has just been announced. I was so bored watching that event. But the phone itself, the OnePlus, pretty much just reminds me of this phone. And that will be definitely a huge deterrent for me not buying the OnePlus 6. Because this phone has a 6.2 inch display up front, has the same design as most phones that are going to be coming out today, and this is absolutely gorgeous. Now this phone is a little bit of controversy over the processor, but I'll get into that later. But to start off, the hardware of this phone is absolutely great. It is just about the right size. It's got that 6.2 inch display, but the body of the phone, it just changes colors. Looks like it might look like it's dark gray in this footage, and it goes back to real bright silver and then dark gray. This is just a good design from them, from Asus, for this phone. I think a lot of people who are waiting on the iPhone X, the bigger version, this is what you're pretty much going to get, more than likely, this size of phone. The screen is really good. It's 1080p, and it does well. But overall, the look and feel of this phone is absolutely really good. It doesn't need a case or anything around the house, but I definitely recommend you put a case on this thing when you leave the house, because it is glass front and back. Even though I have protectors on both sides, when it falls on the corner, which is all metal, it's probably going to crack. So you just be mindful of that. And sometimes I do keep it in one of these cases right here. When I leave, Rhino Shield. But the hardware on this thing is absolutely stunning. This phone, you can get it as low as like $3 something sometimes. But check the link in the description. And when I say $3, I mean like $3.99 is what I've seen at $3.89. But check the link in the description if you want to support my channel and purchase from that link through GearBest. And I think it's on sale for $4.20. Now when I got it, I bought it, it was $4.49. So, you know, I lost 20 bucks, doesn't matter. But, however, you still can grab this phone for $4.29 at the recording of this video, so be sure to check the link in the description for the updated pricing. As far as performance goes, now let's get to that processor. Some people were saying, like, if you put this phone on Geekbench, or you put it on CPU X or CPU Z, they're going to register as Snapdragon 660, but then the underlining segment of that information will say Snapdragon 636. Now, I'm going by the official specs from Asus, which is Snapdragon 636. Ultimately, I don't care that it has a 660 reading and it's a 663 or 636. I don't care about any of that. So before you guys go off into a tangent telling me, oh Jay, you know that's a 600, I don't care about that. What I care about is the performance. And the performance on this phone performs like any other phone I have, whether it's a Snapdragon 835 or a Snapdragon 625. To me, they're all performing the same. They're all performing the same, so it's really good. I mean, I have 3,300 milliamp hour battery inside of this thing that powers it for over 24 hours, and I can't say the same for a lot of phones I have. But the processor inside this thing makes this phone feel really snappy, really good. And you know, you really, if you stay focused on the processor, the RAM, and all that, the only thing in that I think that is really, really important of all is the RAM. Because if you have poor RAM management, it doesn't matter what processor you have inside, the phone's going to run like crap. And that's not the case for this phone. Asus has pretty much stepped away and put a stock feel on here. Just hardly no bloatware. I think it was just some Facebook stuff on here, and I deleted that. But you can see here the phone runs and it performs very well. I just don't have any issues with it at this point. Maybe I'll try some gaming or something like that, but this is only the second phone I've purchased, or I didn't purchase the other one, but I purchased this one, but that I have that has a Snapdragon 636 in it, and both of them run great. They both run fantastic. So all of that aside, the phone's going to perform very well, and you should not have any problems depending on what applications you put on your device, but that's just how it's running for me. Now, I tested the cameras over and over and over and over again, and I gotta tell you, this is one of the best set of cameras I have ever used on a mobile device. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's definitely one of the best. They did a great job with the front and the rear cameras on this phone. The front camera's kind of overexposed sometimes, but if it's like a really white background or bright setting. It has trouble with the ISO auto adjusting. But the rear camera is a completely different story. The rear cameras can handle pretty much everything I throw at it, and I'm having no issues at this point with the rear camera. The AI functionality, it's okay. It's nothing to say, you know, that you can actually see the difference. Now that I've been using it for a while, I can see the difference over other AI phones, but I'm not too much on the hype train for AI cameras at this point. Meaning, you point it at some food, it's going to give you the best shot. You point it at a tree, it's going to give you the best shot. Because there's other phones that I have that do that anyway. So I'm not so much sold on this AI thing. How about they sell it as it's just a really good camera on a phone? That would be good enough for me, instead of trying to get me to believe that there's some special AI functionality. It's just really good cameras on this device. You cannot go wrong. They have a mode on here called Super Resolution. You just turn on your camera, swipe to the left, and you'll see all the options there for Pro and all this. And you just select Super, and then you can change to some really high resolution photos. Now, YouTube can't produce the footage the way you want it. You have to look at it in person. Also, you can do 120 frames per second slow-mo in 1080p, or just 120 frames per second 1080p. Which both are phenomenal. I don't really do a lot of slow motion, so you know, it's not something that people say, why didn't you show that? Slow motion is fine, but you know, when would I use that? It's been real. When am I going to use slow motion? Like, what do I need to use slow motion for in my life? I don't have a reason to use slow motion, but it is there, and you can do 1080p at 120 frames per second slow motion. Totally possible. But the cameras on here are punching way above its weight class. Like, seriously, way above. The cameras on here are great. Other than that, man, I mean, you've got stereo speakers, which is something I didn't really talk about in the other video. They have what's called outdoor mode on here. It just boosts the speakers way up, folks. I mean, it boosts them high. So let me get into a song here, and then I'll also play a video, because a lot of you guys probably won't listen to your phone on speaker for music. Sometimes I do that if I'm in the bathroom or something and I'm showering and I don't have a Bluetooth. I have a Bluetooth speaker in there, but if I just don't turn it on, I'll just put it on full blast with the stereo speakers or whatever I'm listening to. So let me fire up a song here. And that's just me holding it up in front of the microphone for you guys. But I gotta tell you, the footage, the sound quality from that is absolutely great. I mean, there's just really solid sound coming from these stereo speakers. A lot of you guys wanted me to do a comparison amongst other phones, but you know, I'm telling you, these are really loud. Maybe I'll do one comparison with some people say do it with the Asus 7, some people say do it with the iPhone X. I don't know. I'll think of something to do, but let me fire up just a regular video. First of all, the camera can shoot at 1080p at 120 frames per second, either slow mo or regular. And when you see this footage, I know that you're going to say, whoa. So first thing is, YouTube cannot handle, it can't see in the listing. So that's just a quick snippet of the speakers. This phone is packing a lot, man. A 6.2 inch LCD display, stereo speakers, Type C, 3300 milliamp hour battery. Let's close out with the battery. Banging cameras. Now, my first run through with this phone, I got over 7 hours of screen on time. After that, and that was about 22 hours, I believe, something like that. I'll post it up. I got over 7 hours of screen on time. I was totally surprised. And what that means for me is Asus optimized the crap out of this phone, because they know this is going to be a phone that people are going to buy. The price is appealing. The hardware is extremely premium. And some would say that, you know, I guess I would ask, what makes this phone not a flagship? This phone could be considered a flagship killer because it's going to perform and do things better in the camera department and battery than my so-called flagships. Just keep it 100. Battery life on this thing, fantastic. After that initial charge, and I got 7 hours of screen on time, after that I've been getting 6 to 7 hours of screen on time. And I don't anticipate ever having battery issues with this phone. It charges really fast, and that is a huge plus. So 3,300 milliamps inside of this little guy here, absolutely great. Asus just did a fantastic job with this phone, man. And I think this is going to be one of those sleeper phones that people probably never buy until they hear a whole bunch of people talking about it, or they hear the right person talking about it, saying it's great. Other than that, you're missing out. If you're in the market for a super phone with cameras, social media people would love this phone. I mean, people who do social media will love this phone. Whether you're watching it, recording it, posting it, this is a good phone. This is a small form factor with just tons of power. And it's up there to me. I think this is definitely a flagship killer, to be honest. So, it's your man Jay Will, Asus Zenfone 5. I'm definitely, the only reason I would get the 5Z is because of the processor. But I already have a Snapdragon 845 processor in other phones, and it runs great. I don't see that I will be, depending on how much it costs, I definitely probably be wasting money at that point, because I'm not getting rid of it. The only way this phone is going to be out of here is if it breaks or something like that, and I can't use it anymore, and I will probably buy another one. So it's your man Jay Will. I will see you guys in the next video. Asus Zenfone 5 has made it to the top of the list. It's your man Jay Will. I'm out.